Morning, everybody. Welcome to this rainy, at least here, elemental morning. Elemental is a red tea. It's been in this series of red teas. Last week we did fond memories from Yunnan, Fengqing, Yunnan. The week before we did Starburst from Anhui. Today, elemental. It's also from Yunnan. But is it from the same place as fond memories? No, very different. Now, if you looked in your email yesterday, I had it semi together and actually sent you a very elemental map. This map showed two things. It showed the Emei Mountains in Sichuan, Sichuan, and the Emei, by the way, is Emei. And then it showed you in relativistic terms where the Ailau Mountains are in Yunnan. And you see that they're really in central Yunnan. What you don't see is they actually extend and run into a mountain range from the Tibetan Plateau, and that elements of the Ailau Mountains run down south, almost to the border. So this is a long mountain range. The other thing you don't see on that map is in some places about 40 miles to the east is another mountain range, Wuliang mountain range. Both of these ranges are famous for teas. Ailau is the most famous to date because it has the most ancient tea trees. So generally speaking, we remember that old trees refers to anything over 100 years old. Ancient refers to anything over around 1,000 years old. It depends where you are. In some places, they say 800 is ancient. Other places, oh no, give me that 1,000 or older. That's ancient. So this is in a different area than Fengqing. The terroir of this area is very different. And we'll go through all of those elements in a minute. But before I do, let me say how much fun it's been to be with some of you who are taking Acacia's history, ethnobotanical classes. I've had a chance the last few days to spend a little bit of time with you as you go through your tea journey. And a shout out to both Denise and Max, particularly to Max yesterday as going down the hidden door path. So it's been fun for me to do that. And I really appreciate the fact that I'm included in those sessions. All right, so let's continue for elemental. I said that the terroir in this area is different. Well, first off, it's got the largest broadleaf evergreen forest in China. Huge area, huge forest, unbelievable when you walk through this forest. We took some customers there in 2019 into the World Heritage Site. And you go over streams, you see hundreds of varietals of different trees, you see bamboo of all varietal, you see moss everywhere. It's beautiful. And at that elevation, what is that elevation? That elevation is from 1,500, oh, that's meters. Let me do this in real English. 4,500 feet above sea level to about 6,000 feet above sea level. And so when you're in this area, there's this huge biodiversity. And I just mentioned it in terms of trees, flowers. How about the animals? Oh, yes. Thousands of birds use this area as a migratory landing spot. and spend time in these Idaho Mountains. And let's go back to the origin of the name Idaho. What that really means is lots of leopards and lots of tigers. So in this area, there certainly used to be lots of both of those things. I'm happy to report that when we took the group in 2019, we didn't run into any of those. And that's probably why the province had about 20 people along the path, just to make sure we didn't run into, because it is said that there actually still are tigers, but not exactly where we were, more southerly. And certainly we know for sure that there are apes in this forest. The ape varietal will be gibbons, so not, massive apes that you would come face to face to. However, if you've not seen a gibbon, and if you've not seen how fast they move through the trees, it's a real treat. We actually went to a place where there was a gibbon preserve and saw the gibbons in the trees. They're hugely fast in those trees, massively strong, they're almost like gymnasts as they go swinging from branch to branch at incredible speeds. So this forest is full of all sorts of interesting biodiverse species, be it animals or be it plants, or be it mushrooms. There's this huge, interesting variety of mushrooms. Many of those mushrooms, the local indigenous people have incorporated into their diets. And some of these mushrooms are actually traditional medicines for these people. And wait a minute, for these people, what type of peoples? Indigenous peoples. So you have the E minority, you have the Dai minority, you have the Hani minority, you have the Bulang minority. So in China, it's acknowledged that there are 56 official indigenous peoples, types of indigenous peoples, minority peoples. Yunnan has 54 of those indigenous people, types of people, not just 54 people. That would be a small number. And customs are different, clothing is different, food is different. It's fascinating to travel through this area. It's fun to travel through this area. Oh, wait a minute. It's hard to travel through this area because it's hard to get to the area. And once you're in the area, it's inconvenient because you have to have real legs and real feet and walk long distances. It's hard, but it's rewarding. And the people are welcoming. What else does this area abut against? There is a place called the Honghe Terraces, Honghe Terraces. What are those things? Oh, they're famous. Why are they famous? Because if you go up to space and you look at Earth, everybody knows you can see the Great Wall. But what most people don't talk about is you can also see the Honghe Terraces. What are the Honghe Terraces? It's 160 square kilometers at a slightly lower elevation of rice fields, terraced rice fields. And it's the Hani people who started this process in the Tang Dynasty. Oh, wait a minute, Tang Dynasty, that means I have to remember some dates. Roughly 618 to 907, something like that. Within a few years, I'm sure I'm right. They started building these terraces. And when you drive by these, first off, you don't believe it because it's that massive. Remember, I said 160 square kilometers. This is why you can see that from space. So the Ilau Mountains includes lots of interesting features. From our perspective, the forest is massively interesting. The tea tree varietals is enormous. So you have at least 25 different tea tree varietals. So a question should instantly be popping up in your mind. Could you make tea from all these tea tree varietals? And the answer seems to be yes. Do we have any tea from these varietals? The answer would be no. Remember, to get into Sophie's, you have to pass the quality arena test. You have to pass the aroma and the taste test. If you can't do that, it doesn't matter how unusual you are not getting into Sophie's. So this gives you a sense of this area. It's fun to walk in this World Heritage area. Oh, by the way, they have snakes there too. But usually those are less prevalent than some of the other places we go to. And usually they're not hanging out in places that you're likely to come into contact with. So we felt safe enough to take people up into the forest in 2019. All right, so what else then should we know about elemental? It's a red tea. Remembering, for those of you who haven't been on the broadcast, red is your black. So in the West, they would call this tea black tea. It's not black tea. It never has been black tea. It's always been red tea. But because of translation issues, it got called out as red tea. What is the characteristic of that varietal? Let's refresh our memories. You pick it, you wither it, and usually you wither it for a long time. Oh, what is a long time? 12, 15 hours. You're reducing the moisture. You roll it. I sent you, or we sent you, a picture, and it's a cross-hatched bamboo, and that's what they actually roll on. You also saw a picture, was a short clip of them frying the tea in one of the, it's a wok, it's a slanted wok. Now, for red tea, generally they're not doing that. That's really usually for the raw black. But I wanted to show you that because in that area, they make these tea leaves into both raw black, fully fermented black, and red teas. But today we're in the red tea area. So it's pick, wither, roll, pile, and pile means to amass tea leaves, the ones that have already been rolled, and let them oxidize. And you let them oxidize to a point that is culturally appropriate. Wait a minute. Betty Crocker never writes in her recipe book, bake it until it's culturally appropriate. She could have, though. Because as we know, in everything that we do, whether it's cooking or making tea leaves, we have traditions. We have family traditions, lineage traditions. And those lineage traditions tell us the real rules of the road. What is it we're supposed to do in order to get best flavor? Fair enough. So they oxidize and then they bake. And actually, that's basically what they do in this particular village, basically. So what's different? Well, obviously, age of tree. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk process-wise what's different. Typically, if you're not in this area, say you're in Anhui or Fujian, when you oxidize the tea, you're going to oxidize it to about 90%, 91, 92, 93, 94%. And you're going to stop right there. You're done. Well, you're done oxidizing. Still got to bake and stabilize. Not here, not in this village, not with these people. These people oxidize to between 80 and 85%. So that's one of the reasons that the flavor of this is not your typical red tea / black tea flavor. Completely not typical. I said I'm going to talk about the tree. Let's talk about the trees for a minute. These trees are over 2,000 years old. How many of these trees are there in this village? Well, there are about 9 of them. And 9 trees. Let's do some math. I love math because when I do math, I do new math. So I just make up numbers as they come in. Oh, wait a minute, I'm wearing linen. I can't make up numbers today. I guess I have to do good math. All right. So on average, a tree, when it's picked, has 68 times 2. Let's see, let me do the math. 120 plus 16, that sounds like 136 pounds of tea leaves. Okay, that's great. 136 pounds of fresh tea leaves. How many thousands of pounds of dried tea leaves does that produce? Oh, wait a minute, I went the wrong way. It produces about 28 pounds of dried tea leaves. Okay, 9 times 28. Well, 10 times 28 would be 280. If I take away 28, that's about 252 total pounds of what you're going to have today. And we snagged 5 to 8 pounds of this. So, is what you're drinking today special? Oh, it's elemental. It's very special. It's special because of how it's processed. It's special because there isn't much of it. Oh, and by the way, it happens to taste good too. All of these things all together. That's good. That means it can be at Sophie's. All right. So I'm abbreviating my usual long-windedness and trying to get to the tea a little faster because some of you noted last week that you were very thirsty by the time you got to the tea. Let's avoid that this morning. And let's have the numinous, beautiful tea master Biju come and demonstrate. This is first a demonstration. You'll have your chance in a minute to brew with her. Elemental.
Yes.
Biju.
Thank you. Yeah. 早上好. I speak Mandarin. So, yeah, people call me tea master. I'm happy. so happy. 我们做红茶啊，黄母的爱洛芒村，从云南让这个茶是古树红茶。So this my the
Tableau.
yeah, I know style. This is the I made the one made tea at home for myself, same thing. But in China, but it depends tea factory. I use it style, they use the glass, large, not small 功夫茶. 功夫茶呢 is called modern, the way when you small tea shop we do together. It's connection people. This is what we know. This only you see sense and the colors, flavors, peaceful. The we do together after. So I do first. This is the John.
So this is a tea tray. She's got 4 cups set up on the tea tray. You only need 2. So 2 large cups a gourd tea toy that brings good luck, lava, good luck tea toy, and a strainer. What is it you need? 2 cups and a strainer. That's what you absolutely must have. Your tea kettle, it's very convenient if it is temperature regulated.
This is my tray, huh? So tea tray. So when I brewed before, huh? 我叫开 you know the 开壶 you know the what do you mean? First, yeah.
So as she starts the brewing process, what she's talking about, the so-called kaihu, is to open up using hot water, the glasses, heating the glasses, making sure they're absolutely clean. We know they're clean, but we don't want any soap spots. You don't want anything that can interfere with the flavor. So she uses 200-degree water. You can use any temperature of water between 170 and 212. And she makes sure that all the glasses have undergone this process.
Super hot. Oh,
Very hot. And you notice, does she look like she's in a hurry? Does she look like she's nervous? Does she look like she's going to make a mistake? The answer is no to all of those things. There's rhythm. Step by step, easy, steady rhythm. Can you do this type of tea while thinking about, oh my God, I forgot to do this thing or I forgot to do that thing? Oh, I hear my kid in the background yelling. Can you focus and get the rhythm? It's very hard. The tea rhythm helps you be present. It helps you shut out those distractions. There are rules for doing this. Now, if you make a mistake on the rules, any part of the rules, does this mean you're going to brew a terrible cup of tea? No, it doesn't mean that. But if you nail it, you're going to have the most wonderful experience, both in terms of being present for what the tea presents, and also for being present for the best you can be with large cup tea.
意思 right now 呢，我告诉你们，175度的水。
So she is cooling down, aerating 175-degree water. And the objective is to get down to 170 or lower. And you notice, is she in a hurry? No. Is she steady? Yes. When you brew these type of teas, particularly this type of tea, at the wrong temperature, especially a higher temperature, you tend to flatten what's going to be a wonderful result. So she's going to make 2 cups at the same time. And she doesn't handle the tea directly. She puts it in a container or a tray, I should say, so she doesn't have to handle it. Tea absorbs odors, it absorbs anything you have on your hands, lotion, any of that stuff. So this is the reason you use that. Puts it into the heated cup, trying to wake up the leaves, shaking gently. That was 6 grams that she put in. You all have 6 grams in your packages. And I urge you, when it's your turn to start brewing, take a look at these leaves. These are unlike almost anything you've seen before. And the reason for that is these are ancient trees, so they're much larger. And the oxidation process is much reduced. Instead of that 90+%, this is an 80+%. And the timing for this is 3 minutes. All right. So as we look at this, by the way, she used that kettle with that spout so she could control where she poured. Because you don't want to really pour directly on the leaves. You can pour on the side of the cups and kind of get that water to lift the leaves up. That's ideal. You also want to heat the recipient cup up. You can heat the recipient cup up with any degree temperature water between 170 and 212. But the water you use to actually pour into and steep the tea is 170 or less. And look at the massive size of those leaves. So that's a characteristic. Now, let's think a minute. This is called elemental. One of you is about to ask me, is this what they call it in that location? And the answer would be no. They call it such and such a village, old, not old, ancient tree red tea. Very hard to put on a chalkboard, hard to fit that all in. Secondly, hard for you to remember. Thirdly, just not as expressive as elemental. What does elemental mean? Has lots of meanings. As an adjective, inherent, of the elements, as a noun, spirits. So there's something about this tea which somehow connects to the elements of this particular area. And you can say there are spirits in this tea. Now, let's not go that far. Well, you can say that, but I'm not trying to imply that this is a, in quotes, spiritual tea. If it's a spiritual tea, it's because of your relationship with it, not because, you know, they inject local spirits into it. Your tea should be, oh, not yet. When you do it, it should look like this. Most of the tea leaves hanging on top, whoops, and you certainly shouldn't spill any out of the cup like I just did. Tea master was just horrified that I touched her cup and did that. Don't do that. That's the demonstration of what not to do. So, do the local people, why did they end up doing this? Okay, 3 minutes is expired. We'll get to their story in a minute. Okay, so gently separating the tea leaves, tea liquid from the tea liquid. So the Arvin.
Yeah.
And you notice, again, very steady, not rushing, not in a huge hurry, just making sure that it gets done correctly. All the leaves go back to the cup because you get a wonderful second and third cup from this. All right. So when you do this, yours is going to look this color. Wait a minute, John. I thought you said red/black tea. This doesn't look very black to me. Maybe there's a mistake inherent here. Answer would be no mistake. Understudy frequently mistakes, but this is not a mistake. This is the correct color. And when you look at these leaves, take, it's not your turn yet, but when it's your turn, take a close look at the wet leaves. What color do you see? Do you see a normal color, whatever a normal color is, for what you're used to with black/red tea? Oh no, I see some greenness in here. I see some orange. I see some brown. I see some black. Wow, all the colors of the rainbow. This is really cool. And what else? Let's enter the quality arena. So entering the quality arena, we're going to take 170-degree sip and we're going to coat the tongue and we're going to get some sense of where the dryness is in the tongue. Then we're going to swallow and get some sense of aftertaste. And then interjects. How is it making me feel? Where am I feeling something? Everybody is genomically different, so you're going to get differences everywhere. Let's find out. Not you. I'm going to find out. My goodness, this is a little different than any red tea I've had before. I'm getting that dryness in the tongue. Oh, a lot of dryness in the tongue. Oh my gosh. I'm getting a little aftertaste. I don't have any interjects yet, but I'm sure I will. I'm gonna take a second sip. And that second sip, I'm gonna focus on aroma. I'm gonna focus on taste, and I'm gonna reinforce the first elements of where the astringency is, what the aftertaste is, and any interjects. And by the way, I'm getting some interjects now, strong interjects. All right, I've made my judgments. It's time for you to brew along with the tea master. And it'll be, when you're done brewing, you'll do the same thing. Enter the quality arena, make your judgments, and share with everybody. So it's your turn. Make sure your timer is set for for 3 minutes. And that you're drawing 170-degree water. Unless this is water that you're using to heat the cup, then it's any temperature between 170 and 212.
And if all you have is 175, you'll go ahead and cool it down some.
Yes, good catch. If all you have is 175, that's great. You use 175, aerate the water. It'll cool down quickly as you aerate it. And you'll get it down to 170 or below. And remember, if you make an error, err on the side of cooler, because cooler brings brightness, hotter brings flatness. Tea master is drying the water. And she's actually drawing 175. So already starting the dissipating steam, aerating the water process. Not in a hurry, very rhythmic. Steady. So get your bag marked elemental. It's already pre-measured. Go ahead and put it in your glass or ceramic cup. Glass is better because it dissipates heat faster, but if you have ceramic, that'll work just fine. Shake your cup, heat up the leaves. And if you have a kettle that has a spout and it's convenient, pour it back into the kettle and then use that spout feature to direct where the water goes. All right, and set your timer for 3 minutes and go ahead and start it. Now, talking about these people, the indigenous people in this particular village, what sorts of things do they believe in? They believe in, and this is not every indigenous person, because remember, there's many different indigenous peoples in this area, but many of them look on the forest as the mother of their existence. And they look specifically at tea trees as truly totems to their existence. Yes.
Some comments back from participants already. First one is, I noticed there are stems among the leaves. Are there teas that primarily use the stems in their method?
So this commentator has a great question. And the question goes something like this. It looks like these indigenous people didn't do such a good job of not putting in stems. Is that common, or is there some reason for that? Actually, they left the stems in on purpose, and they left the stems in to bulk up the flavor. When you have a stem left in, especially at this level, it's used to amp up the flavor. Why might that be something that they would do? When you brew this, you'll notice again how light it is. The stems add body. This is a great, great question. I'm glad you caught that. I should have talked about that before. Yes.
Another participant says these leaves are beautiful.
And this participant says the leaves are beautiful. They absolutely are. You know, when you think of red tea, you don't slash black tea. Have you, sometimes you get a little gold, you get a lot of black, you don't get the rainbow effect that you get in these. And again, this is because they oxidize to less degree. And if you're an amateur looking on from the outside, you would say, oh, they didn't fully oxidize. Oh, they didn't do this thing or that thing. Oh, they left stems in. All a bad job, right? And the answer is no, not a bad job. They purposely, over the ages, came to this solution to how to correctly, culturally, for this terroir, process these leaves. Yes. Timer's gone off. You're going to separate the leaves from the tea liquid. Not in a hurry, rhythmically.
On the stems question, I think that the asker was wondering whether there are teas that are primarily made out of stems, deliberately primarily made out of stems.
Oh, that's a different question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't handle the stem question correctly. The question really was, are there primarily stem teas? And the answer is not really. There are some teas that use a different part of the leaf slash plant. And I'm trying to remember what those are called. It'll come back to me. And they're about this long. They're not exactly stem, and you wouldn't call it stem tea. But it's a different part. It's almost like a husk that develops early on as the plant is just starting to sprout. And that locals will make a tea from. It's not considered normally in the market what you would sell, although I've seen it occasionally, especially in local markets sold. I've tasted it. It's interesting, but would it make it onto Sophie's boards? No, we tested to see if it would. Nah, it's not quite like this. Yes.
Another participant commented on there being a chocolatey nature, and I for the commenter, were you saying it was the nose or the flavor? Sorry, I misplaced the actual physical comment. Which one was it?
So there's a chocolatiness, and we're gonna find out in a minute whether it's flavor or the aroma that this particular commentator has. And there definitely is, there's a lot going on with this, both in aroma and taste. And it's subtle. It hits you right away that it's different. There's no question about that. But as you parse it, then it's very subtle. Yes.
Another participant shares, my initial impression is bright and sweet with aroma and taste.
Bright and sweet with aroma and taste for this commentator. Love this comment because it is bright right away, clean, fresh, and hints of sweetness without question. And by the way, one of the things you might ask about this forest is, are there any ancient fruit trees? And there are. So sour cherries happen to grow in this forest. And so the result is everything growing around the tea trees. Because remember, there's rhizomes, the little roots in the soil, and they interact with each other. And they interact to all the flowering plants. There are hundreds of different orchids in these forests. There are rhododendron trees in these forests, and they bloom just spectacularly. So this all has an influence on these trees. Because remember, these things have been there for at least 2,000 years. So they've had plenty of time to communicate with the plants around them and absorb and trade elements of the nature of the individual plants.
Someone else shares, I noticed a strong chocolate malt scent in the warmed leaves, and then I started getting the floral scent in the wet leaves. And then the tea liquor gives a cider-like feeling in my nose, and there is a sweetness in the scent, maybe even a hint of fruitiness.
So there's a lot in this commentary. And I love this commentary because it starts with the dry leaves, hints of chocolate and malt. Love that start. The wet leaves, a slight tinge of floralness in them. So, and this is no different than I would analyze this, because I catch that floral right away. And then in the tea liquid, it turns into sweet, fruity, almost to fruity. And, you know, I would have reversed it, but this is me and my individual genomic appreciation of this. I would have said fruity first and then sweet. I get that fruit. And by the way, when we talk about floral and fruit, some of you have a very clear distinction. Most people, in my experience, those run into each other, floral and fruitiness. And sometimes what one person says is floral, another person will say is fruity. We're talking in the same general ballpark. So all of this commentary is spot on.
Another participant shares, the liquor is thick enough and it's so smooth. The smell of it before I drink indicated so much floral and sweet complexity, and the energetics, so quick, so warming, beautiful.
Energetics, warming, quick, and beautiful. And I love what, great comment. I love also what the commentator said about the liquid. So the tea liquid has substance to it. And though the commentator didn't use the word viscous, that's what comes to mind when I actually drink it. You look at it and you're fooled. Hey, this is very light, is what your eyes tell you. And your eyes try and convince you, I'm not going to like this. This is going to be too thin. And then your mouth, I beg to differ. This is not too thin. This has substance. It has a floralness to it. It has a sweetness to it. And then it warms you up quickly. This is powerful stuff. Yes.
Another participant shares they're getting a chocolate smell while brewing and then a fruity taste with a woody aftertaste. And then it's astringent on the tip of the tongue.
Okay, love this comment. Commentator takes us through a whole journey. A little astringency on the end of the tongue, chocolatey, malty in the smell, and then woodsiness as we come to the aftertaste. Why is this such a good comment? It's a great comment because you have truly entered the entirety of the tea arena. You started with the leaves, you graduated through the tea liquid, and then you're giving me some sense of aftertaste. This is great. I love the fact that you picked up that woodsiness because many times people don't parse enough. And you parsed a lot and you parsed out that woodsiness. I absolutely get the woodsiness. And that's one of the things I love about this. And back to the questioner who talked about stems. That's part of getting the woodsiness in here.
Another participant shares and says, yes, I'm tasting hints of floral, sweet, and a small hint of citrus and chocolate as well.
Floral, sweet, small hint of citrus and chocolatiness. I mean, my God, all wrapped up in a tea. This is because of the cultural terroir. They oxidize it to the point that they believe this ancient tree should be oxidized. If they had oxidized it 91, 92, 93%, would you have gotten this set of huge variety in the tea liquid? Answer is no. This is through lineage. This is through recipes over the ages that they figured out how to bring out that sweetness, how to bring out that floralness, really how to accentuate what's going on with these tea leaves. Okay. So remember, you can get 2 more great cups with this. This tea keeps giving and giving. And part of that has to do with the ancient nature of it. And it also has to do with the 80 to 85% oxidation. There is lots of stuff left in different components of the leaves. And as you continue to brew, you're going to see the shifts in taste. And that's a beautiful thing about this tea. So one of the things I was telling you about the peoples is in this belief about tea trees, in this belief about the aliveness of the forest, in this belief that they are connected to Mother Earth. You truly have this strong sensibility about that. And that's one of the reasons they avoided some of the terrible things that happened in other parts of Yunnan when entrepreneurs came in and said, oh, cut down those trees, you make some money from that, and plant some tea bushes, you'll make money from that. And so some areas were wrecked as ancient and old trees were cut down, bushes were put in, and the farmers didn't get what they thought they were going to get, and instead were left with landscapes that were desecrated and crops whereby they lost value. These tea trees are enormously valuable. When these go to market, these are extremely expensive and hard to come by. And normally, you can't just go into the market in Beijing. Hey, give me ancient tea tree. Ancient what? I said tea tree.
How many people outside of Yunnan, how many Chinese tea drinkers within the country are aware of the uniqueness of the ancient tree reds?
Great question. So how many people outside of the immediate area where this is grown and processed are aware of the uniqueness of the ancient tree? And actually in China, CCTV has gone to this area, taken films and documentaries and played those on television. So lots of people have heard of this. Far fewer people have gone. Those in the tea elite and tea scientists all know these places and by and large have gone. Rich people go or send their emissaries to get some of the tea if they like this varietal of tea. So this is really something you have to work hard to get. And if you know it and you're really a tea hound or a tea aficionado, you go get it or you send somebody to go get that. And price is not the object at all. And again, for those of you who are getting to know us, when we go to these places, do we bargain? Oh, you said $1,000, I'll pay you $9.90. The answer is no, because we're not competing with American shops. We are competing with tea literati, with rich people, with officials. That's who we're competing with. And you don't bargain. You go in there, the price is the price. Yes.
Another comment from a participant, the steep leaves didn't have the sweetness of other reds, but came through definitely in the aroma and flavor of the liquor.
Great comment. So there's subtlety in the sweetness. And this commentator is saying it doesn't hit you like the other ones. Some other reds would hit you and be more obvious about sweetness. But in terms of the aroma and the sweetness and the fruitiness and the floralness and chocolatiness, it's all rich beyond belief.
Have an energetics comment here. Elemental provides me with the sensation of feeling balanced, bright, and spirited.
Balanced, bright, and spirited. This particular commentator notes in terms of the energetics. I absolutely get that. For me, I feel warm, start to perspire actually a little bit. I feel that calmness, centeredness. It's a beautiful tea. And it just makes me feel like, okay, I'm ready to get my day going now that I am centered. So your comment is right on the money and actually reflects quite a bit of how I feel.
Another person shares, I feel complete.
Love this comment. I feel complete. Elemental completes me. And I get this. I absolutely get this, because think of it this way. Would you like to get out of bed in the morning if you had elemental to look forward to? Many of us, the answer would be, oh yeah, no alarm necessary. I will get right on up to get my elemental. It's that type of a tea. Elemental doesn't, it's not middle of the road. It doesn't, I could have or I could not have. No, it's either I got to have this or I don't have the time to have this morning. I got to have it and I got to have time to have it. I got to be present with this. Can you imagine getting up, trying to get 8 kids off to school, pack lunch, and then on the side at the same time trying to enjoy and getting what this is really giving you? The answer is no. This really requires attention. It requires you to be present to get the fullness of it. Yes.
What inspired the tea's name?
What inspired the tea's name? Well, I think the elements we're talking about, and of course I use the word again, I think the nature of the tea itself, and for me, more importantly, the nature of where it is, because you go to this place and you're blown away because it's beautiful. Think of, and I know some of you aren't going to like this comparison, so I accept it if you tell me bad comparison. I hate the comparison. That's okay. It's the comparison that works for me. Yosemite on steroids. You get up, you have that great air, you have all of these plants and the mosses and the sound of the water through the forest, the bamboos growing everywhere, and these ancient tea trees. I mean, this is, well, okay. So when I go to Yosemite and see those enormous sequoias, I get that same chill that I get when I see these tea trees. And therefore, to me, all of this represents inherent nature, the elements of nature, the spirits of nature. That's where the name came.
Another participant shares, I'm getting a floral scent, a taste of leather, and a grounding energetic. I get a sense of the age through all these senses together and the ancientness. It's like traveling through time.
Love this comment. This commentator in tasting the tea and appreciating the tea is traveling through time, gets a sense from the tea, from the leaves, of the ancientness and the specialness of this tea. What was the first part of that? I love that description
There
too.
was the floral scent, a taste of leather, and then this grounding energetic.
Love it. Grounding energetic, that sense of calmness. Listen to this, a taste of leather and sweetness. I love that leather because I can appreciate that. Great comment.
Another participant shares, I'm extremely relaxed. I was wide awake, and now that I've consumed it, I could float into a nap.
Commentator says, I'm extremely relaxed, and the elementalness of this would float me into a nap. All right. And that's floated me almost to the end. I salute all of you for being so focused and engaged with this tea. This tea deserves your attention, and you've given it, and it's reflected in the remarks that you've made here. Great job. Next week, we start a new series. And of course, I can't remember what the first tea is, but that's okay. Don't worry. I'll send you the information on the new series. It's not a red. We're going to some other. Oh, we're doing whites in the next series. So look forward to seeing everybody next week. Also, you have responsibilities this week. We've just gone through this elemental experience. Your responsibility is to stay healthy, and we'll see you next week. You take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.